My name is Tanya Weber. I was 32 years old, living in Columbus, Ohio, and surviving on caffeine, overtime, and the belief that love was supposed to feel heavy before it finally became worth it. Back then, my boyfriend was Caleb Mercer, 27. We had been together for nearly 3 years and living in my apartment for 9 months. The lease was under my name because I had the place long before he moved in with his camera bags, gym clothes, and promises about bigger opportunities coming soon. The apartment wasn't impressive. 1 bedroom. 3rd floor. An elevator that sounded like it might collapse every Tuesday. Thin walls. Old cabinets. A bathroom sink that rattled when the upstairs neighbors showered. But it was clean. Safe.
Affordable.
When Caleb first moved in, he used to kiss my forehead while I cooked dinner and call the apartment our beginning. Toward the end, he called it proof we were stuck. I worked night shifts as an inventory supervisor at a grocery distribution warehouse. The work was brutal, repetitive, exhausting, but it paid every bill on time. Caleb worked front desk at a fitness center and occasionally did photography gigs whenever he felt inspired enough to take clients. Some months he helped with groceries. Some months he said he was investing in his future. His future mostly looked like expensive sneakers, camera lenses, protein shakes, and clothes designed for Instagram photos instead of real life. I kept telling myself relationships required sacrifice. That temporary struggle was normal. That supporting someone you loved was part of building a future together. That was the lie I fed myself every night, driving home exhausted at sunrise. For almost a year, I carried nearly everything financially. Rent was $1,420. Utilities averaged around $200. Twice, I covered Caleb's car payment because he swore repossession would destroy his life. I paid over $700 to fix his radiator after he sat at my kitchen table with tears in his eyes, saying he couldn't lose transportation. I helped with a dental bill. I even paid part of a credit card balance he promised was temporary. Meanwhile, my own savings account barely moved. I was tired constantly. But I thought we were struggling together. Then his ex-girlfriend came back to Columbus. Her name was Sabrina Cole. And suddenly everything about me started becoming not enough. Sabrina looked rich online. White Mercedes. Steakhouse dinners. Hotel rooftop selfies. Luxury captions about soft life energy. Caleb became obsessed with her lifestyle almost immediately. Sabrina says people stay broke because they think too small. Sabrina says hourly jobs trap people mentally. Sabrina says successful people move differently. One night, I was washing dishes after a 12-hour shift, while Caleb sat scrolling through Sabrina's Instagram at the kitchen table. I asked quietly, "Do you even hear yourself anymore?" He leaned back in the chair. "You're always defensive whenever someone thinks bigger than you." That sentence stayed in my head for days. Thinks bigger than you. As if my overtime hours meant failure. As if stability was embarrassing. As if paying bills quietly somehow mattered less than pretending to be successful online. After Sabrina returned, Caleb changed fast. He started criticizing everything. The apartment was depressing. My car looked old. My work schedule was destroying my femininity. One night, he looked around the living room and sighed dramatically. "We're too old to still live like this." I stared at him. "We?" He ignored the question completely. That was when something inside me started quietly disconnecting. The final fight happened on a Thursday morning. I had just finished a 12-hour shift. A shipment of frozen vegetables had burst near the loading dock before sunrise, soaking my boots with freezing water. My shoulders ached. My back hurt. I just wanted a shower and sleep. I got home around 7:40 a.m. Caleb was sitting on the couch, 2 suitcases beside him. I stopped near the doorway immediately. The apartment felt strange. Too quiet. Too prepared. He looked up calmly and said, "We need to talk." That rehearsed tone people use when they've already practiced leaving you with someone else. I placed my keys into the bowl beside the door. "Okay." He folded his hands together slowly. "I can't do this anymore." I glanced at the suitcases. "Do what?" "This." He waved around the apartment. "The struggling, the waiting, pretending this is enough." I stayed quiet. That seemed to irritate him. "I'm still young, Tanya," he continued. "I don't want to wake up 5 years from now in the same apartment with someone who's always almost getting somewhere." Almost. That word hit harder than yelling. I looked at him carefully. "I work 60 hours a week." "Exactly," he snapped. "And we're still here." There it was. Not concern. Not frustration. Embarrassment. He was ashamed of the life I was exhausting myself to maintain. I looked at the suitcases again. "Where are you going?" He hesitated. "Sabrina said I can stay with her temporarily." I almost laughed from pure exhaustion. "Your ex-girlfriend. She understands ambition." "No," I said quietly. "She understands appearances." His jaw tightened instantly. "You always make successful people sound fake because you're scared to want more." That almost hurt. Almost. But I was too tired to feel destroyed anymore. Then he finally said the sentence that ended everything. "I can't struggle with a woman like you." The apartment went completely silent. He expected tears.
Begging. Defending myself.
Instead, I looked him directly in the eyes and said, "Then stop struggling." His expression changed immediately. "What?" "You said you can't struggle with a woman like me," I replied calmly. "So stop." "You're seriously not even going to fight for us?" "Fight?" I had been fighting alone for almost a year. I'm done fighting bills, Caleb. I'm definitely done fighting someone embarrassed by me. He stood up quickly. "So now I'm the villain?" "No," I said softly. "You're just ungrateful." That hit him harder than shouting would have. He grabbed one of the suitcase handles aggressively. "You're going to regret this once I'm successful." I nodded once. "I genuinely hope you become successful." That answer made him furious, because calmness sounds unbearable when someone wants drama. He stared at me like he expected me to collapse emotionally. When I didn't, he muttered, "I'll come back for the rest of my things later." By Sunday. His eyebrows lifted immediately. "You don't get to give me deadlines. You don't live here anymore." For 1 second, I saw panic flicker behind his confidence. Like he suddenly realized leaving only works when the other person chases after you. He rolled the suitcases toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around one last time. "You're going to die alone in this depressing apartment." I leaned against the kitchen counter, exhausted beyond anger. "Maybe," I said quietly, "but at least it'll finally be peaceful." Then he left. The silence afterward felt enormous. Not painful, just unfamiliar. I took a shower, slept 4 hours. Then I packed the rest of his belongings.
Carefully. Neatly.
Clothes folded into labeled boxes. Camera equipment wrapped in towels. Shoes placed into trash bags because I ran out of storage bins. No screaming. No revenge. Just logistics. By Saturday afternoon, Everything Caleb owned was stacked near the front door. I changed the Wi-Fi password, removed him from my streaming accounts, called the leasing office, and removed his building access. The breakup cost me $86 in boxes, $145 for a locksmith, and the final piece of emotional patience I still had left. Sunday came. Caleb never showed up. So Monday morning, I rented a storage unit. At 6:12 p.m., I texted him the address, unit number, and gate code. I also told him I had paid for the first 30 days. 10 minutes later, he replied, "So you really put my whole life into storage?" I stared at the message for a long moment before answering. "No, I put your belongings into storage. You took your life with you Thursday." Then I blocked his number. 4 days later, the first flying monkey appeared. Her name was Melissa, one of Caleb's gym friends. She texted me Tuesday morning from an unknown number while I was halfway through reheating leftover pasta after work. "Tanya, Caleb is devastated. He said you threw all his stuff away. That's honestly cruel." I stared at the message for a few seconds, then opened my storage unit photos. Every box labeled. Every item organized. Nothing damaged. Nothing missing. I sent one picture back. Then typed, "Nothing was thrown away. Unit is paid for 30 days. Melissa read it immediately. No apology. Just, "You still could have been kinder." I laughed quietly to myself. Kinder. Like kindness was something Caleb had run out of receiving. I replied, "I used labels and bubble wrap. That was kindness." Then I blocked her. That afternoon, Caleb emailed me. Subject line: "You're being heartless." The email was 7 paragraphs long. 7. He claimed I had abandoned him during an emotionally vulnerable transition, said I weaponized housing, said I was making him feel unsafe and unstable. He also argued that because some mail still came to my apartment under his name, I legally couldn't deny him access. I forwarded the email to myself, created a folder called Caleb, then replied with 3 sentences. "Your belongings are in storage. Your mail will be forwarded. Do not come to my apartment without written agreement." He responded 6 minutes later. "You sound like a robot." I didn't answer. 2 nights later, he showed up anyway. 11:18 p.m. My doorbell camera notification woke me up from the couch. I opened the app. There he was, wearing the old Ohio State hoodie he used to steal from my closet, carrying a plastic grocery bag like he expected nostalgia to unlock the door for him. He knocked twice. Then louder. "Tanya, I know you're home." I pressed the microphone button. "What do you need?" He jumped slightly, looking up toward the camera. "Seriously? You're not even opening the door?" "No." His face hardened. "I need my camera hard drive. It's in storage." "You want it tonight." "I need it tonight." There's a difference. That irritated him immediately. People like Caleb hated calm responses because they couldn't turn them into emotional battles. He stepped closer to the camera. "You're punishing me because I told the truth." I leaned back against my couch cushion. "No, you moved out. I moved your belongings afterward. That's logistics." His jaw tightened. "Sabrina was right about you." "Then go talk to Sabrina." His expression flickered for half a second. "She's busy." Of course she was. He stood outside my apartment building for almost 15 minutes. Called twice. Texted from another number. "Open the door." "Stop acting childish." "I just want to talk." Then, finally, "I made a mistake." I didn't respond. Instead, I called building security. Mr. Alvarez came upstairs 2 minutes later. Calm, professional. Slightly annoyed because it was almost midnight. Caleb immediately tried smiling. I live here. Mr. Alvarez asked for his active building access code. Silence. Then Caleb looked toward my camera with pure hatred. When security escorted him outside, he shouted, "You're going to end up alone in this sad apartment." The strange thing? I slept better that night than I had in months. By week 3, Caleb's story completely changed online. Now he claimed he hadn't moved out. According to him, he had simply needed space, and I had illegally kicked him out during a mental health crisis. He posted a black and white selfie on Instagram with the caption, "Crazy how people stop loving you the second you're no longer useful to them." Useful. That word almost impressed me. I had paid his car payments, covered repairs, paid bills, funded emergencies, bought groceries, handled rent. But apparently, he was the useful one. Then Sabrina entered the drama directly. At 1:03 a.m., she messaged me on Facebook. "Why are you stealing Caleb's things?" I replied the next morning. "His belongings are in a paid storage unit. He has access." She instantly replied, "He said you refused to let him get his stuff." I sent screenshots of the storage information. Seen. No response afterward. Later that same day, Caleb sent me a Venmo request. $2,600. Description: emotional damages plus emergency housing. I declined it immediately. 10 minutes later, another request arrived. $780. Description: car repair money since you offered it as a gift. Declined again. Then Melissa texted from yet another number. "You're really asking him to suffer after everything?" I replied. "He's the one requesting money from me." Blocked. The weirdest part through all of this was realizing I wasn't falling apart. I thought I would. I thought I'd miss him so badly that eventually I'd give in just to stop feeling lonely. Instead, my apartment felt lighter, cleaner,
Quieter.
my checking account stopped bleeding constantly. I started picking up overtime for myself instead of fixing emergencies Caleb created. Within 2 weeks, I paid off nearly $600 on my credit card. My manager noticed the difference immediately. One afternoon, he called me into his office. "The assistant day manager position is opening soon," he said. "You should apply. Better hours.
Higher pay.
A real promotion." I applied that same day. Apparently, Caleb found out through mutual friends because the next morning he appeared outside the warehouse. Not inside. Outside. Near the employee entrance at 6:30 a.m., right as my shift ended. He wore sunglasses, even though the sun had barely risen. I stopped walking immediately. "You can't be here." He smiled like we were starring in some dramatic romance movie. "I just wanted to congratulate you." "For what?" "Your promotion thing." "I don't have it." "But you probably will." He stepped closer. Funny. 3 weeks earlier, he couldn't struggle with a woman like me. Now suddenly he wanted conversations again. I folded my arms. "What do you want, Caleb?" His smile faded slightly. "Funny how your whole life suddenly improves after abandoning me." There it was. Not apology. Not accountability.
Punishment.
He wanted me guilty for surviving without him. I looked him directly in the eyes. "Maybe things improved because I stopped funding chaos." His face changed instantly. "You think you're better than me now?" "No," I said calmly. I think I'm finally responsible for myself again. Behind me, the warehouse doors open. My coworker Darren walked out carrying coffee. He slowed immediately after noticing the tension. Caleb suddenly raised his voice louder. "You left me with nothing!" Darren blinked once. "Didn't she pay for your storage unit?" Caleb whipped around. "Mind your business." Darren sipped his coffee casually. "Trying to. You're yelling at the employee entrance." I almost smiled. Caleb pointed at me aggressively. "You're making me look crazy." I shook my head slowly. "No, Caleb. I'm just refusing to rescue you anymore." For a second, his entire expression cracked. Not sadness.
Panic.
Because he realized the old version of me was gone. The exhausted woman who kept apologizing for his failures wasn't coming back. That same afternoon, HR called me in. Caleb had emailed the company claiming I was harassing him through coworkers and spreading personal information about him at work. Thankfully, I had screenshots of everything. The storage texts, doorbell footage, Venmo requests, Darren's witness statement. HR closed the complaint within 2 days. After that, I stopped treating Caleb like heartbreak and started treating him like documentation. Every message got saved. Every interaction recorded. Not for revenge, for protection. 1 week later, I got the promotion. Assistant day manager. Better hours. Better pay. A different life. The first evening I came home before sunset, I sat alone in my apartment eating a sandwich and realized something strange. I wasn't lonely. I was rested. 2 months later, the storage bill came due. I had already paid the first month exactly like I promised. After that, it became Caleb's responsibility. He ignored every warning. Then finally, he showed up at my warehouse again. This time, security stopped him at the front desk. When I walked into the lobby, he looked completely different. Wrinkled hoodie. Dark circles. No confidence left. No Sabrina either. "My stuff is getting auctioned," he said quietly. "Then pay the bill." "I don't have the money." "Ask Sabrina." His jaw tightened. "We're not talking anymore." Shocking. Then he finally said it. I made a mistake. I looked at him calmly. My life was going nowhere because I was carrying both of us. That broke him more than yelling ever could. His eyes filled immediately. "I miss you." I shook my head slowly. "No, you miss stability." He asked if we could talk after work. No. Asked if I could help with the storage payment. No. Then finally, "Do you hate me?" I stared at him for a long moment. "No," I said quietly. "I just believe you." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "You said you couldn't struggle with a woman like me." I stepped back toward the hallway. So I stopped being your struggle. Security escorted him out a minute later. That night, I paid an attorney to send a cease and desist letter documenting the apartment visit, workplace appearances, false HR complaint, and money requests. After that,
Silence.
real silence. The storage unit was eventually auctioned. I never checked what sold. My life kept moving forward. The promotion changed everything. I started sleeping normally again. Started saving money. Bought a real dining table that didn't wobble. Small thing. Felt huge. A few months later, I met someone named Nathan at a birthday dinner for Darren's girlfriend. Quiet guy. Steady energy. When I told him I worked warehouse operations, he smiled and said, "That sounds exhausting, but important."
Important.
Not embarrassing. Not temporary. Just important. That was when I realized the truth. Caleb didn't want partnership. He wanted rescue disguised as love. He wanted my paycheck, my apartment, my overtime, my patience. But he never wanted the reality of building a life slowly. The bills, the exhaustion, the discipline, the responsibility. He thought struggling beside me made him look small. But once he left, I finally understood something. I was never small. I was just exhausted from carrying someone who refused to walk beside me.